Welcome back to Edgework on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on YouTube as Edgework Show, and if you want to listen to it back, you can find us on podcasts as Edgework as well. And if you're looking to track our picks in real time, see how they've done throughout the course of the season, make sure to head over to the BetStamp app, where you can find us in the Find Better section as Edgework as well. Monday morning, only 3 games today. It is the New Year's Day, so we do end up with a midday game, the outdoor game. But Joe, how was your New Year's?
Yeah, it was fantastic. We had some great games in all sports over the holidays, so it was great to see. How about your guys's?
It was good. We just hung out. We watched a bunch of Disney movies.
Nice.
That was how my New Year's was spent, watching Disney movies.
That's not a bad way to do it. That's not bad.
It was fun. I like it.
Yeah. Did you get to? Because you're on West Coast time, right? Like, how did you get to see the Ohio State and the New Year's Eve ball drop at the exact same time? The missed field goal.
Yeah, it was. I was overstimulated. Everything was going on. I had my phone on, with like the game on. The kids wanted to watch the Seattle, like the Space Needle New Year's celebration. So I had that on the TV, and then they had their movie on. There was a lot of things happening.
Yeah, there was a lot going on New Year's, that's for sure. But glad everyone had a safe and happy New Year's, and hopefully everyone watching did as well. We'll start with some takeaways from this weekend, or anything over the past week, I guess, even because, Joe, we haven't got to talk since prior to Christmas there.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's sticking out to you? Any takeaways that you have over the past week and a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of things happening right now. I can't believe how well the Sabres have been doing as of late. Tag Thompson looking absolutely phenomenal out there on the ice. And then we look at the Carolina Hurricanes. I love what we're seeing out of them. And you look at their goaltending. Frederik Andersen isn't even in here, and they're getting excellent goaltending out of Ranta and Kochekov. I never say his name right, you guys, but he is like absolutely phenomenal. Between the two of them, I can't believe how they owned the Devils yesterday in that game. It was a phenomenal game. And the Devils, talking about them, you guys, what are they doing on the power play? They got an amazing penalty kill. They can't score on that power play right now.
Yeah, I know the Devils have really taken a bit of a dive, and even like you're looking at the Hurricanes, they're on an 11-game win streak right now, and they've just continued to roll. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Devils there. It's kind of funny as it goes along to monitor, because I remember when Keith Yandel made that early prediction, and everyone went nuts about how he was saying they would miss the playoffs, and now it doesn't seem like it's out of the realm of possibility for that to be the case. You're looking at them, they're only 2 points up on Washington. And just the fact that you can even say that they have teams that have closed in on them a little bit is wild, considering where they were and how far ahead of everyone they were. But it's been a steep decline for the Devils since the beginning of the season there. And so, Money, are there any takeaways from you over the past little while?
Yeah, Joe actually touched on them briefly, but it's the Buffalo Sabres. I've been bullish on them now for the last 2-3 weeks, as they've gotten a lot better, and they're now starting to get healthier too. I've been wanting to take a shot at them to make the playoffs. Their odds have tumbled a little bit now. We were at a plus 550, plus 575 last week. They're down to, I think, Zach, you can probably help me out here better, but I think they're down to plus 450 now. Look, they're not going to get into the top three in their division, but that second wild card is not out of the realm of
Mm.
possibility here, right? So, um, it would be Capitals, Rangers, Penguins, and the Sabres. One of those three teams would get the division, and then the Sabres would slot into possibly a second wild card. Rangers, we know how I feel about the Rangers. I think that they're they're not as great as they're not as good as where they are in the standings. And the Penguins, I don't worry about the Penguins long term, but I mean stuff like what they're going to, it can snowball sometimes. So I do really want to take a shot at the Sabres. I'm just waiting for some pricing, but yeah, I think that Sabres are a team that really stand out for me. And even in that second game of a back-to-back, that was a tough spot yesterday against the Senators. And
Yeah.
I think the Sabres drove play for most of the game, and I was really impressed with how they with how they came out in that game. Even though they lost, I didn't score that as a kind of loss that the score indicated.
Yeah, they're plus 450 right now to make the playoffs for the Sabres as like a consensus price there. So they're also just a fun team to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah.
Like regardless, they are a fun team to watch. It's one of those ones where at the beginning I'm seeing Buffalo Sabres on the TV. I'm not as enticed to turn it on other than the fact that it's a hockey game to get to watch. But now it's like, oh, the Sabres are on. Like I want to put that on and see what's going on there. Watching Tage Thompson and hearing some of the player comparisons has been kind of funny, but it's still enjoyable to see what he's doing. And he's kind of just like in the most respectable way possible. Like he's a creature out there. Like he's this monster of a human being who can move extremely quickly and very slick. He's got great hands, a great shot. It's fun to watch the Sabres. My takeaway is the impact on the lines for the Colorado Avalanche specifically, whether it is removing or adding a singular player, and that player would be Nathan MacKinnon. When MacKinnon was removed from the Avalanche lineup, in each of the matchups they went up against during the time that he was out, the odds were adjusted anywhere between like 5 to 10%, sometimes even above the 10% mark there with him being out. Now that he's back, we're seeing that kind of swing back in Colorado's favor. You're even looking at this game today against Vegas. They're setting at minus 160, plus 150, but it feels like there's almost to a degree an overreaction with the removal and addition of Nathan MacKinnon to how it affects the lines. But so money, do you think that this is like an appropriate reaction, or is this one a little bit overinflated either way?
So it goes on a spectrum, right? I think that when it was when he was activated off the IR that morning, then in that moment, if you were quick, then you got a good number, right? Um, at at that moment, of course, it's not overinflated. As the day went on, um, it did get a little bit out of hand. Just like when he went down that first game,
Yeah.
you always have that initial reaction where if you're right on quick, you will get the good number. If you wait, you're betting into a line that's more mature. So if you're looking at the closing number, yes, the closing number would be inflated in this moment because the market tends to always overreact to these things. But if you're early, then you're good, right?
Right.
So it's it just depends where you fall on the spectrum and where you got that number.
Joe, how do you feel about how quickly the line moves? I know you're out there in Alberta. You're
Yeah.
watching the Oilers fairly closely, at least, kind of seeing Draisaitl come out of the lineup, and then you can kind of see the movement in the lines there. Is that kind of like what would happen if Connor McDavid comes out of the lineup?
I couldn't even imagine what would happen if Connor McDavid came out of the lineup for the Edmonton Oilers. That'd be a huge underdog, I think, no matter who they faced. I think we'd see an extreme overreaction by the books because we know Edmonton is deep. And that's another thing looking at Colorado. It is a deep team. So these reactions, while they're a little bit overreactions, I do think granted in some cases, like Connor McDavid is granted, Nathan MacKinnon is granted. So I understand the movement because these guys are leaders on their team and really hold that team together. So I think it depends on the player, and I think the books, they have to adjust like that.
Yeah, and I think Joe makes a good point, and also speaking on Draisaitl when he was out on Friday, I think, right, against
Yeah.
Seattle. Yeah, so throughout the day, if you listen to Woodcroft, if you read between the lines, with what the beat writers were saying, it was fairly obvious that Draisaitl was not on that trip, right?
Yeah.
So the game was
Yeah.
in Seattle. You pretty much knew that he wasn't there, but of course, nobody would come out and say that. But the market understood that. You saw the move on the Oilers throughout the day. Um, it got to sorry, you saw the move on Seattle throughout the day, up to they were like minus 125, minus 130. Even when Skinner was announced, there still wasn't an adjustment, right? So in that situation, the market absolutely overreacted to Draisaitl being out. They didn't. There was no buyback. There was no adjustment on Edmonton going with the better goalie. The market should be buying back when Skinner's in there over Campbell, and that didn't happen either, right? So yeah, like stuff like that, like Draisaitl, and you can also make a case sometimes like teams get that. It is proven that teams get that little bump when the star player is out, for like the first game. There is a little bump there. So yeah, I think the Oilers example is another good one there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that here in Toronto as well with the defense going out. Like they
Yeah.
just kind of stepped up. We saw it last year when Matthews went out for a period of time. Marner went out. Like the team kind of has that initial reaction where they almost overreact, but in a positive way to the absence of those players. And I mean, yeah, you talk about the line movement and the closing lines of those games, like so many. I'm pretty sure I was on Seattle. I think it was like minus 102.
I was
And
too,
then
yeah.
got them like minus 105 again, and I'm like, oh come on. It's just the CLV bonfire at that point. But let's look ahead to today's games. We have an afternoon game here for the outdoor game. That one will be fun to watch. I don't know what your guys' opinions are on the outdoor games. I think they're still kind of fun. People that go to them seem to have an absolute blast every time. I think that the players still enjoy them, regardless of the potential risk for injury. I think it's still a cool thing if they've never got to experience them before. I'm sure a guy like Sid is probably a little worn out with it at this point. He's been there, done that. He's done some bigger things than the outdoor game, but to guys who it's their first time, it's still going to be enjoyable for them. So I don't mind it. It's not like the greatest experience ever watching on TV, but still kind of a cool experience. But starting with this one here, Boston is currently favored against Pittsburgh minus 161. We're seeing 163 best price. Pittsburgh plus 160 in this game. Pitt right now is tied with the Islanders for the last wild card spot. They are in terms of points, they are ahead in terms of a winning percentage. They have gone on a 4-game skid here, losing to the Canes, the Islanders, the Red Wings, and the Devils. And Boston just continues to roll along. Even if they are losing games at this point, they are still finding ways to get points. They are 7-0-3 in their last 10. They are just coming off a loss to the Sabres the other day where they wore the angry meth head bear jerseys. But they're the first team to 60 points in the NHL this season. I just think Boston can continue to truck along and just be a dominant team here. I can't see it going any other way for them as it goes along. Maybe slow down a little bit from where they were at the beginning of the season, but nonetheless, I think that they continue to close out as the best team in the Eastern Conference. Joe, how do you look at this Boston-Pittsburgh game here today?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Boston comes out, gets a win in this one. We know the Penguins have struggled versus Boston as well. And then Boston off a loss. There is no way that I am betting against them here. We know that the last time these two teams played, it was a high scoring one with Boston getting the win 6-5. But I think they come out, I think they really shut down the Penguins' ability to get these goals in this one. We know Omark is expected. He's just absolutely phenomenal in goal. Tristan Jarry expected here for the Penguins. But this is Boston's game all day. I love that it's outside on the outside rink. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
You asked about how we feel about the outdoor game.
Yeah.
What is a show with me without me bringing up the Canucks in some way, right? So
Yeah.
my my outdoor experience has soured when Tortorella didn't go with Luongo
Yeah.
against Ottawa in that outdoor game in 2015 or whenever the Canucks were playing the Sens there. So
Yep.
since then, I'm over it, right? And until and maybe if the Canucks get another one, I can get back into it. But I'm more interested in what the wind is doing and what the ice conditions are, right? So from all accounts, it looks like it'll be sunny. There's not going to be precipitation, but it there does seem to be some wind that that is swirling. As well as the players kind of mentioned, the ice felt a little bit slushy. Now, you expect that in outdoor games, so that's something I'm keeping an eye on. I'll have a better idea closer to game time, but I'm looking at the under, and it's not something that I'm too crazy about. I'm kind of hoping that the that the players come out and say that the ice is fine and we're all good, because I
Right.
really don't want to bet the under in this game, and
Yeah.
and I really don't want to bet the Penguins either. Right. I think that Joe made some good points about the Bruins, and that's not a train I want to step in front of right now. So possibly the under, probably nothing. Hopefully I don't have anything in this game.
Fair enough. And Joe, do you have a best bet in this game?
Yeah, I'm going to take a Boston in regulation in it.
Okay. So we will track all this on the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework. You can see how we've done on the season to date. So we find that one currently seeing minus 113 best price on that in Boston in regulation. I have a player prop in this game that we'll give here. It's Jake Gensel, anytime goal scorer. Again, I mean, so money, as you said. I'm hoping as well that this one isn't a kind of under type of game. Hopefully they come out and they say, yep, the ice is perfect. It was cold and crisp and everything feels good, but no guarantees on that. But this is more just, you're playing with Sidney Crosby. You're playing in a big game, in a big moment. Crosby is a guy who finds ways to get his line mates involved. Jake Gensel does get a considerable amount of minutes playing alongside him. They get important minutes. They get important time on ice. And at this point, I just kind of feel like you're looking at Gensel. His expected goals are a little bit above where his actual goals are at this point in the season. His shooting percentage a little bit lower than previous years. So I'm going to take Jake Gensel, anytime goal scorer, at plus 180 in this one. Hopefully Sid just finds a way to get him involved, even if it is just on a little backdoor tap in or a tip by the net or something like that, because those are pretty good ways for Sid to get his line mates involved in these types of games. Let's look at another game here. Vegas, Colorado. We can look at this one quickly. Vegas right now, first in the Pacific. They are 52 points. They have slowed down a little bit since where they were at the beginning of the season. They've dealt with some injuries of some key players going in and out. And obviously, it's not his fault that they've gone on this skid. He's still playing fairly well, but you have a rookie goaltender in net, a guy that kind of came out of nowhere to jump into things. At some point that allure may wear off a little bit, but now Colorado, they get MacKinnon back. They are on a 3-game losing streak here. They just come off of losses to Arizona, the LA Kings, and Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night. They're 1 point behind Edmonton for a wild card spot. They do have 3 games in hand here, but Colorado right now is currently sitting at minus 159 and Vegas plus 150 in this game. like so money. What is going on with the lines there? Like, is that accurate? Is this entirely because MacKinnon is coming back?
Yeah, there is that. Also, like when you look at this number on Vegas, it it does look nice, and like you are inclined to look that way more often than not. But this Vegas team right now is just a shell of itself. They're dealing with a ton of injuries.
Yeah.
They've also they're also pretty inconsistent. Colorado, even through the McKinnon injury, I don't think that they played poorly. Um, as you guys were talking about earlier, they are a strong team. So I think that the line looks fair, even though it is tempting to look at Vegas. I think that there's just too much missing on that roster right now, and it it is inflated a little bit with Colorado, but at the same time, I I wouldn't look at Vegas either.
Yeah, fair enough. More of a stay away, maybe just enjoy this one and see how it plays out, kind of thing. Sit back and just watch some good hockey. It is too bad here, though, like the NHL
Yeah.
scheduling. I just want to say quickly, the NHL scheduling, like you've got a game in the afternoon. You
Yeah.
only have two other games. And they're at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Like that's peak NHL. You want to just pile on to the fact that you won't let teams fly out the day before. I also saw a stat, by the way, of because so many, you and I had talked about that with the Leafs getting fined. I had said to you like, hey, that's no problem. You take the fine. It was against the CBA. It's a fine. It is what it is. The rule itself is dumb though. 7 teams that had to fly on the day of the game flew over 75 minutes to their game. All 7 teams lost. Only one team had to fly over 75 minutes to their game. They flew the day before and they won. It's like it impacts the players. Like it impacts the players having to fly.
I feel like,
Absolutely.
sorry, Joe.
No, go ahead.
I feel like we talk about this every day, where the NHL just gets
Yeah.
another thing wrong, and I don't know why they're scared of the Rose Bowl today. To be honest, right? Like clearly that's like what it was. Why there's no game scheduled? Even the Philly Anaheim game that's starting later, but right in that area before the Vegas game and after the Bruins game is the
Yeah.
Rose Bowl, right? So
Yeah. And the outdoor game is always on New Year's Day. It's always
yeah,
on New Year's Day. So then they push it off. They're scared of the NFL. Okay, understood. A lot of people push things off. A lot of leagues push things off because of the NFL. Understood. But then you just cowered away from the entire schedule the next day because there's college football game. Like, what are we doing here? The NHL is just making a mess of it. Final game that we'll break down here today: Philly, Anaheim. Philly is kind of somewhat of a scrappy team here. They're on a 2-game win streak. They beat San Jose. They've beat LA. They're going to play Anaheim here, and then they're going to go on and finish off this road trip against Arizona. I don't really know. Like, they're one of those teams that can just find a way to stay in it. If you've got a guy like John Tortorella yelling at you behind the bench, then you might find a way to get up and try to fight your way back into a game. So they kind of find a way to stay close in some of them here. Whereas Anaheim is just, they just have not been great. I mean, you're looking at them even behind the Flyers, who have not been a good team. They're 11 points back of the Flyers. They've got a minus 67 goal differential. This game is somewhat of a coin flip at this point in terms of the odds on the game. You're looking at Philly minus 112, minus 113, Anaheim plus 104, best price. Joe, if you're looking at this game from like an outside perspective, it's not going to be the most the highest level of hockey here. It might be a little bit entertaining, could be a bit of a back and forth one, but what do you think about this Philly Anaheim game tonight?
This all comes down to who is in goal for the Flyers tonight. If we get Carter Hart back, it's a Flyers game, and I'd be looking at the Flyers team total over. I wouldn't be looking at the total of this whole game, though, because I question the Ducks' ability to get the goals in this game. It's sitting at 6. If Carter Hart's in, only the Flyers team total would I hit. If he's not, I'd still lean on the Flyers team total because we know the Ducks are allowing those goals to come in. They're allowing 4.11 goals per game defensively. And John Gibson expected in goal for the Anaheim Ducks here. It's not going to be a pretty game on the ice at all. We know the Ducks can pull off some upsets, but I don't believe it here.
Yeah, and so Money, you and I both are on the same side of this one. It's kind of ugly, but why don't you tell us about that?
It's so ugly. Like I'm like sitting here looking at the Flyers. Like I'm looking at the screen right now. We're seeing up to minus 120 on the Flyers, and I still think that's short, right? So, and if as Joe mentioned, if Carter Hart is in, like I'm on the Flyers already with the speculation that that a Carter Hart is going to start. If he doesn't start, then I'm sitting here with the Flyers as a road favorite with Sandstrom or Urson in goal. Like that's just terrible. But in these in these situations, I think that going early with the speculation and the assumption that you need to make to have a plus EV ticket, I think that Flyers are the way to go. I do like them up to minus 115. With if Carter Hart is in, I would push that up a little bit more. But yeah, it's not a game I'm going to watch. This is going to be one of those things where I will check the score afterwards or look at my phone and get the score updates. But other than that, just put the Flyers in, forget about the game, and hopefully you have more money in your account afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and figure out what happened in this one. I will not be as intrigued here tonight, but So Money, Joe, thank you guys for hopping on here today. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the show. If you just caught the end of it, you want to watch it back, you can do so on our YouTube channel as Edgework. If you wanted to listen to it at some point during the day today, you don't have time to watch, you can go over to all podcasting platforms and find us as Edgework there. And as well, if you just want to see the picks from today's show, you can go to the BetStamp app where you can find us in the Find Better section as Edgework as well. See how we've done through the course of the season, see our picks today, and see how they perform tonight. Guys, thank you. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thanks for hopping on here today. Hopefully everyone has a great day, a great rest of your week, and I will see everyone next week. Enjoy the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.